Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an Airspear Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Devoted Fusion titled Inship. And if we switch over to here, apparently this is off of their upcoming album titled Ship Me to Heaven. Apparently that album is due out on the 22nd of April 2026 if I'm not mistaken, and with us getting so close to the end of the year it doesn't really feel that far away. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. I should also mention here that I'm going to be grading this track on various musical criteria with an overall score out of 10 at the end, but for now, let's go, let's do it. What do we have? Nice transitions of the hi-hats there.
This is your journey glistening, just like the coming prophecy. Will you come back to save yourself from all misery?
Love that alternative production there. Great use of dynamic range here, things coming down.
The ship embarks in odyssey, travel on this quest of inquiry. Will you recover from your clear-cut history? They're only so unclear.
Switch of pace. I think the music video is really interesting. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I do like the effort put into it. So that's a solid effort, a great first impression of Devoted Fusion, and we're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. And so welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Devoted Fusion titled Inship. Now, first of all, we'll go into the conclusion. I gave this song an overall score of around 7.4 out of 10, which I feel is a fair score. There's a lot of stuff that's done here really well. We're just going to sort of talk more about that now. I'm going to give my sort of like thoughts on a few parts of this track that I really sort of thought were quite well done as any sort of applicable constructive critique. And then finally, we're going to sort of like talk about my general thoughts on it from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? I think that this track, given the talk in the lyrics, as I understand it, about discussing taking charge and sort of overcoming adversity and kind of gaining sort of proficiency, maybe it's about becoming the commander of like sailing your own ship and overcoming the obstacles and challenges that might come your way. I kind of get the impression that that's what it might be about, in which case I think that's a fantastic thing to talk about within a song. I find that invigorating, to be honest, celebrating people's own agency over their own situations in the face of adversity. I think that in terms of things that I thought were done well here, one of them was the production. I thought that was quite well done for the most part. I think, as I understand it, they actually handled all their own sort of production capacity in-house. If there was a point of sort of like feedback I could provide on that, this is more of a question. I'm just not sure if we double-tracked the rhythm guitars. I feel like when you double-track the rhythm guitars and you space them out on the sides of the stereo field, they just have a lot more size to them. There's the risk sometimes when we record a rhythm track that we copy and paste it over to the other side, and then what happens is the guitars kind of sound like they're in the center of the stereo field and sort of phase each other out. I'm wondering just if we, because I know from what I can tell, we've got one guitarist, if I'm not mistaken. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I think just, yeah, if we aren't already sort of double tracking rhythm guitars with independent takes, I think that'd be something we could definitely look into. But otherwise, I just love the way that the various sort of like guitar, bass, and drum parts were sort of layered, and vocals were layered around the frequency spectrum, as well as the stereo field, the sides of the headphones there. There were some cool parts. We had some vocal fry going from the left to the right. And I just think it was really neat to be able to play around with positions and placements of things in a way that was quite creatively kind of satisfying. I also think that we had solid presence for the vocals for the most part in the mix. There was a nice bass response. The guitars sounded nice and chunky in the mix. The bass had a great sense of body to it. And while we could have potentially have put a little bit more reverb on some of those drum hits, especially the kind of doodle-dum, those kind of like alternative toms of percussion you had on the side of the rack, ultimately I just feel like it was really well handled, and leveling in general was really, really good. I think it was the way that the song was structured as well, the various chapters. So we had some parts we had kind of rotary or kind of like a reverb or kind of interesting clean tone to arpeggios on the guitar parts. It offered a lot more room for the vocalist to do what it needed to do, and I thought it was cool that the drummer was also sort of focusing on the hi-hats during that part to allow a bit of a higher end resonance. And the little accents on the alternate percussion there, dum-dum, was just nice and satisfying. It sort of indicated that we're going to do another loop. In other parts we had distorted guitars and a more sort of like thorough expression of the drum kit as well, with the growly vocals. In addition to that, it's just nice that we were sort of differentiating these in a way where they transferred neatly between one another, but it made the track more interesting because you weren't sort of overplaying the same thing and leaving the listener's attention for granted. We know to have the catchier kind of guitarist with some interesting melodies there that are kind of captivating, but then we also sort of add a bit of mystique or sophistication with the unexpected clean arpeggios, and just the way that we know when to put those in is really cool. I thought the breakdown that we had near the end as well, where the captain and the pirate, the skull, were fighting, was really cool. It was just nice from an audiovisual perspective. You could tell that was the big showdown. They've been kind of working towards that the entire time. The person finally summoning the courage to tackle their adversity and defeating them near the end. I think it's straightforward, but nonetheless really effective. But for the music to just get a bit more chunky, especially with those power chords and the chugging and stuff like that, was really cool. It made it sound a bit more epic and intense. The graininess of the guitar tone as well, made it sound kind of dusty and dirty and grimy, like it wasn't a clean fade. And I also think it was the lead layers, like the vocals were sung well. We were comfortable in a head chest voice. Again, we have great presence in the mix. And we usually used notes, which made sense in regards to the chord progressions, bass lines, and drum parts. When we had a great sense of sort of rhythm and self-awareness of where we were in the mix. But it's also when we had the lead guitarists come in there, and they had a kind of a poignant positioning to them in that mid-range and like near the sort of the upper strings. It was just nice to allow the notes to hang a little bit. There were some faster parts, of course. We kind of played with the listener's expectations in terms of where we were going to sort of snake and whether we were going to rise up or come back down again. And then knowing to come back down into the heaviness thereafter we ascended a bit was just really cool as well. Like we've just put a lot of thought into this piece. It's quite well performed. And we've got no real complaints about how it's implemented or written. It's just very sort of solid effort. And it really makes the new album look quite promising. In terms of applicable constructive critique, I think I've spoken about the kind of like the dryness of the drum tones of some parts as well as the rhythm guitar parts. But it's just a really solid concept. It's well played. I've got no complaints about the vocals or the way it's structured. I think it's very, very good all round, ultimately. I think actually the fact that there are like very few, like don't get me wrong, there are like minute little rough edge to it kind of makes it just seem a bit more real, if that makes sense. I do appreciate when people take on the challenge of producing their own music, especially when it works out well. From a general listener's perspective, I think it was just kind of neat to have the Ship Me to Heaven and then have Inship, the track within the album. It kind of makes me think there's a connection between those two things. So that kind of satisfies me. I do wonder how explorative they're going to get with their various progressions and experimental textures. But I look forward to seeing their journey, or hearing their journey, should I say. And I wish them the best of luck in future, because I think they've got chops and I think they've got potential. But thank you for watching my review of this track from an act named Devoted Fusion titled Inship off of the Ship Me to Heaven album, again due out 22nd of April 2026. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SBRX. Spiderhands out.